he cures diseases. We did not know of his stature, nor did he let on to people as to what a supreme power he is. And it was only by Guruji's will and Guruji's grace, I would say, that he let us have a glimpse of him. Otherwise, kabhi pata nahi chalna tha. So we went initially because my little boy was 7 years at that time, and he used to get fever every month. And the fever would rise quite a bit. Due to his being resistant to all antibiotics except one, this problem of mine used to persist. And I had excruciating pain in my legs from hip to toes after my daughter was born. And I had done a lot of doctors and cures and what have you, but we never came to know what it was. And we also did not have any such know-how as to how to go about, easing that pain. So when we heard about Guruji, we went. And I had this at the back of my mind that if I'm listening to people saying, heart ठीक कर सकते हैं और कैंसर ठीक कर सकते हैं, तो ये तो इनके लिए कुछ बड़ी बात नहीं होगी. This was a time when there was no mandir, there was no bade mandir, there was no dugri mandir. Guruji had come from his dera in Jalandhar, which still stands, and he had taken a place on rent in Delhi for having his sabha over there in the evening. He just said, there are 40 cars going somewhere behind me. Just put your car behind and come. And when we went, he took us to somebody's house. It was a drawing dining, but everybody was sitting on the floor, and I thought that my legs pain such a lot, I cannot sit on the floor. I went and stood in the corner. He went into one room and he shut himself over there, and there were about 30 people lined up outside. And I was just left thinking that ye to मेरा नंबर तो यहाँ आने वाला नहीं है. He's not going to look at me also, because he had been telling my brother-in-law अपने भाई और भरजाई को ले जाओ, and we were very skeptical. We were scared कि कहीं कोई गलत ना हो, तो नहीं जाते थे हम. Well, the door opened. Guruji came straight towards me and he just motioned me to get up. I didn't realize that I had sat down on the floor. And then I just got up and he said in Punjabi, he said, Das, batao. So I said, Ji, my son. He says, forget about him. You tell me what is your issue. So I just said, my legs pain a lot. He said, well, you were sitting here since such a long time. Pain. I realized I had sat down and there was no pain in my legs. He said, Aaj ke baad nahi hogi. And it never happened again. I never had to take any injections or any medication, nothing. It just vanished. He emitted a fragrance from his body. It was a very sweet smelling kind of a fragrance which came from his being. I was later told by Guruji that this was Prashad to whom he wanted to give. He said, दो जने साथ बैठे होंगे, एक को आएगी दूसरे को नहीं आएगी. ये मेरे ऊपर है कि मैं किसको वो प्रसाद देता हूँ. So I was fortunate to get that day, and I cannot describe it as something which is floral. No, it was not, but it was heavenly. That is what I can register. And Guruji just went on listening to other people and giving them a cure, and वो अपना बोलते चले जाते थे. जहाँ आप बैठते थे वहाँ गुरुजी खुद आते थे. जब सभा लगती थी, you were not supposed to get up and go to Guruji, and you could not question Guruji about anything. It was his discretion as to who he used to go to, who he used to talk. The only things which I found were standard even till today, what he had said was the sabha when he used to sit in, he used to ensure that not only where he sat, but where the sangat sat was very well lit. All the lights in the rooms used to be switched on. There was never any darkness, there was never anything done for, you know, giving it a very warm look. No. It was always well lit. When he was going to come to our house, I was called aside and I was asked, जहां मुझे बिठाएगी वहां रोशनी है? I said, जी हाँ जी है. कहाँ बिठाएगी? I said, जी ड्राइंग रूम. So he said, जहां संगत बैठेगी वहां रोशनी है? I said, हाँ जी है. दीवारों पर भी रोशनी है? I said, हाँ जी है. So that was one thing. Was by Guruji's hukam. We always used to get chai prasad, and the chai prasad never had any accompaniment of snacks. This was started later. So it was chai prasad, and then it was langar prasad. So langar prasad by Guruji's hukam was very simple. It was one rasewali, one sukha, and 2 rotis, and 1 meetha. He always used to say, prasad mein hamesha pehle meetha rakhida hai. So we follow it till today, as we all know the Satsang and how we have these gatherings now. These have started more so after Guruji took Samadhi. Initially, whenever Guruji would go to somebody's house, he would select who would go. You were not free to have your own guest list. It would be Guruji's guest. More often than not, we never knew who the guests were. We never knew them. And we had to take permission. If we wanted to call friends or relatives, we prepared a list and we gave it to Guruji, and he would go through the list and then he would sanction who could come. So when he came to our house, I was just about to go outside and see like how many people left in that line. He was blessing everybody by giving them a laddu. And my helper, who was also our cook, he just came with a screwdriver, and I asked him, I said, what are you going to do, bhaiya? So he says, wait. He just removed the door of our house. He just unscrewed it and he removed it. And when I asked him, I said, what are you doing? And Guruji was sitting right there, you know, in drawing on the sofa. And Guruji also smiled at him. And he said, jo line hai na, usko asani ho jayegi andar aane ki. And then we went out and we saw that it was going down the lane. So we don't know who those people were. We don't know where they'd come from. Just a handful, I can say, that we knew. And this was all Guruji's doing. So he knows who to bless, when to bless, and where to bless. This he has always kept in his hand. He has never said to people, and I can only tell you what I was shared. Like, you know, I was told by Guruji by word of mouth. When he used to sit in the sabha, he used to call it Mere process wale din, which till today in Bara Mandir, we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday as process wale din, जिसमें गुरुजी सभा में बैठते हैं और हमें चाय प्रसाद और लंगर प्रसाद मिलता है. When Guruji starts the sabha, Guruji would sit quiet and so would the people sitting in front of him. After that it was langar time and the playlist would change. Initially the playlist would be shabads, which Guruji had selected himself, and quite a few are still prevalent. During langar time, he used to say कि कोई इतना नहीं है इंसान जो इतनी देर ध्यान लगा सके और अपने घर भी तो जाना. Meaning he used to break that prayer and he would bring you back into your grhasti and he would play, you know, Punjabi folk songs and other light songs. But I will maintain one thing, the decorum was always maintained, always. No talking would start once the langar was on. It was in pin drop silence. Because the process was not complete till after the langar you have bowed at his feet, taken agya to go home. Till then you do not talk amongst yourself. You're losing something of yours. So maintain silence and maintain that connection with Guruji. And another thing which he had told me directly, he said, do not use your cell phone when you're in my presence, your blessings will be transferred. And you cannot do it, like by will, that I'm going to talk home, so my blessings will be transferred home. No, na unka bhala hoga, na aapka. तो वो फोन कभी नहीं यूज करना when you are in Guruji's presence. That time you give to your Guru. You have to take out that time for yourself, for your betterment. And nothing should be more important than Guruji at that time. So these things you can even tell other people. And this word should spread, that the decorum should be maintained at all times. My mother was diabetic, and Guruji kept her like a flower for many, many years. He used to say, "Ye dawai khati rahegi, to theek rahegi." And she lasted many, many years. You are not to take anything for granted. Guruji used to say, "जब मेरा लंगर खाते हो, तो इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि तुम डॉक्टरी इलाज छोड़ दो। डॉक्टर अपना काम करेंगे, मैं अपना काम करूंगा। दवाई भी तब लगती है जब मैं ब्लेस करता हूं." So that has to be done. My father was told many, many years back that he has lymphoma, cancer of the lymph glands, and the hospital did not give him long to live, just about 3 months. Well, we heard that Guruji had come to Delhi, and we went there where he was. Since there was no mandir sthapna at that time, we were given permission. My husband and I sat in front of him, and we saw that he was very, very uncomfortable. He could not sit straight. He was changing his position time and again. मन में यही आया, इतने बड़े महापुरुष को हम क्या बताने आए हैं, और ये हमने बाहर आके भी बात यही करी कि हम इनको क्या बताने आए थे। हमको ये बहुत पुराने भक्तों से भी पता चला था कि जब गुरुजी किसी का कल्याण करते हैं तो वो उनका मर्ज, उनकी बीमारी और उनका कष्ट अपने शरीर पर खींच लेते हैं, hence the discomfort. So he already knew what the issue was. We went away quietly that day, and after a week or so, Guruji called us on the phone and he said, "I'm going somewhere and you come. It's somebody's housewarming." Well, we went there. I wasn't in a mood to sit and chat with anybody or laugh and joke the way Guruji was doing. Good for them, because it was a happy occasion for them, but my father was in hospital that time. And we used to go to the hospital for a short duration in the day. I went and sat at the back. He called me. He put me right next to his seat. And after that, he didn't even look at me. And I was just left thinking in my mind, मैं यहाँ क्या कर रही हूँ? मुझे यहाँ क्यों बुलाया गया है? Suddenly he looks at me and he says, "तेरे को the cancer ठीक कर देता है मैं. Cured your father's cancer." The reports in the hospital started changing, and my father was given a clean chit by that hospital. It was just that the cancer had vanished. Doctors, being of a scientific bent of mind, and I would say rightly so, they were also a little baffled. And Guruji's words to me were, "Doctor हैरान रह गए, डॉक्टर नो confuse कर देता." We took my father to another hospital where he lost his memory, and we went to Guruji again, and Guruji just said, "Kale chane pravaa kar do." 2 days passed, nothing happened. We went to Guruji again. He just saw and he said, "Chane pravaa nahi hoye, dobara karo." So we asked the person who had gone to give this immersion of chanas. He said, "प्लास्टिक का पैकेट गांठ लगा हुआ गिर गया मेरे से ब्रिज के नीचे, तो मैंने सोचा कि बह गए, बट बहने का मतलब था कि आपको उसको प्रवाह करना था, बहते पानी में चने प्रवाह करने थे." तो it was done again. My father is 85 today, with a memory which would leave his children behind. He can reminisce his childhood days, and he doesn't forget anything. In fact, many a time when my mother was in different hospitals, my father would remind the doctors there that this is what she takes and this is what she doesn't take. So he was very accurate in his memory. He has been throughout. It's all Guruji's doing. I was once told, "जे मैं तेनु दसांगा तेनु की है, तेरे पैरों तले जमीन खिसक जाएगी." I said, जी मैं सब कुछ देख चुकी, तुसी की कर सकते हो, मैंने प्लीज दसना ना. He said, 5 साल बाद दसांगा, 5 साल वास्ते no दर्शन and no telling anybody in the house. ऐ मेरा हुक्म है, जब मैं कवांगा तद आना, तद संगत करना है दी, उस तो पहले नहीं. So 5 years passed, and in my mind, I just prayed to Guruji that I really want a yours, but I will not ask anybody. My husband used to take just one magazine, and Guruji's photograph came in that. Never before and never after it has it ever come, because Guruji का हुक्म था कि उनके बारे में ना न्यूज़पेपर में और ना मैगजीन पे ना ही टीवी पे आप दे सकते हैं. But उस magazine में वो आया, and it was no coincidence that that was the only magazine which used to come to our house. I tore that page and I kept it in my bedside drawer. I was completely asphyxiated one day. I couldn't breathe in, breathe out. And I could just ring up my husband and my mother and say, can't breathe. My mother-in-law had passed away, and my father-in-law couldn't climb the stairs because my bedroom was on the first floor. So I could just vaguely hear him calling out to me from the ground floor. And my child, I was told, my son, later I was told, ran to the nearest hospital to get an oxygen cylinder, and my daughter ran to the neighbors to get help. And when I was alone in that room, I just took Guruji's photograph and I just said, Guruji, mainu saah nahi aa raha. And I got a strange sensation at the back of my head. And I felt as if my lungs have opened and I can breathe. I was still taken to the hospital, and over there with an oxygen mask over my nose, I just asked the nurse, with my action, where am I? She said, ICCU. I just thought in my mind, jab mera ant aaya, na mera gharwala kaam aaya, because Guruji would affectionately call my husband tera gharwala. So I just thought, na mera gharwala kaam aaya, na mere maa baap, na mere bacche, na koi aur, sirf mera Guru kaam aaya. Because it was Delhi traffic, and in the traffic you cannot reach anybody who's at a distance very soon. So before they could reach me, Guruji had already revived me. When I got the hukam and I was standing in a line in front of Guruji, he just looks at me and he says, "Kyun fir? Na karwala ka maya, na maapyo, na bacche, na koi aur. Tera Guru ka maya, le teri second life, tu aish kar." Whatever he predicted, whatever he had said, has come right in front of my eyes. It has come true. When he first blessed me with health, he also gave me many materialistic blessings. One of them was that I have a school of my own, and I said, no, 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 you are mistaken, Guruji. I don't have any school. My mother has a school of her own. She's the one who owns it and runs it. So he says, no, I have seen it. I have seen it. School खुलेगा, बहुत वधिया चलेगा. मैं वेख लेता है, ते तू वेखी. Those were his words. And when later I was asked to do sangat about this to somebody, I started laughing because I had no such intentions of, doing this, even though I had all the qualifications. So he just came, intervened, sat down where I was supposed to do the sangat, and he just said, pointing a finger at me, गुरुआं दी गल पत्थर दी लकीर होंदी है, खुलेगा बहुत वधिया चलेगा, मैं वेख लेता है ते तू वेखी. I have been running my school since the past 20 years, and now we are on educational land the way he had wanted it. He had told me, after your daughter gets married, then go. So we did exactly that. Came Corona. We still went on with whatever Guruji had told us. And just one day we were just talking amongst ourselves that, how are we to go about it? And Corona has so many restrictions, even after it was easing out, there were still construction restrictions and all. We went to the Bara Mandir as usual, and when we came back, a very, very dear friend called us. And that dear friend told my husband and I, we have seen Guruji in the dream, and you both are sitting there in the mandir, and my husband is standing next to Guruji, and he's telling him, दोनों को बोलो जो काम मैंने बोला है वो करना है. So there was not a single doubt that we had to carry this out. And here we are in all its completion and with Guruji's blessings. I was once told that go and meet a Sangat member who lives in Singapore. And I was just thinking that, okay, I'll go later and leave my kids with my mother. So Guruji just looks at me. He could read minds, of course, and this conversation we had, but I had not spoken a word out aloud. So by telepathy, he read my mind. He said, "नहीं नहीं नहीं, बाद इच नहीं जाना, हुने जाना है, बच्चा नो भी लेके जाना है." So here we were, we went, and when we went to Auntie's house, मेरा हुक्म ये था कि जब वहाँ जाना, जितने कल्याण मैंने तेरे करे हैं, सारे उसको सुना कर आना. So I said, Guruji, कौन है वो? He said, मैं तेरी संगत कराई है. Sangat meant what I'm doing right now. But whenever you would do a sangat, we would never ask names. We were not allowed to ask any names or give our own bits in the conversation. It was completely, the narrator is narrating and the others are listening. So I did not have a clue who Guruji is meaning and who this lady was. He said, "Tu pehchan legi aur wo tujhe aake le jayegi." 1 week prior to my flight, every day Guruji would call me, and every day I was called aside and asked only one question: "What is the time of your flight?" And I would say, 12:05, Guruji. I knew one thing, that a Mahapurush does not need to ask me. Secondly, he will not forget. Why is he asking me again? And thirdly, definitely मेरा कुछ कल्याण वो कर रहे हैं, इसीलिए वो बोल रहे हैं. So when the final day came and I took off, yes, the lady came and she collected us and took us straight at her house. I had not disclosed to Guruji that my DEXA scan was showing a decline in calcium levels, and very fast at that, and both my hip joints used to pain a lot. I would just do ardas to Guruji and it would rectify and I would be on my way. Well, I did sangat in that lady's house and one side of my pain went. She intervened and she said, "बच्चों ने कुछ भी नहीं खाया होगा, हम लंगर कर लेते हैं." When we sat down for langar, all of us unanimously said that we can get Guruji's fragrance. All of us. After the langar was over and I continued, the other side pain also vanished. And I told this to Aunty and she said, "Don't you think that is why he sent you here?" He knew. So when I came back, I just told my husband at the airport, I said, "Guruji को माथा टेकते हुए चलें?" He said, "अब वो दिन खत्म हो गया है, 12 बज गए हैं. Now it's like Sunday night. We will now meet him on Thursday. We cannot go when we are not allowed to." So I said, "Okay, fine." The next morning, he got a call from Guruji, and I remember him telling me, the phone rang and he picks it up and he says, "Kaun?" So he says, he heard Guruji. So Tarun says, I just stood up where I was because he was like very, very, very happy to get this call from Guruji. So he said, "Come to me right away and get Master Knee also." That was me. So we went, and जैसे ही हम बैठे, Guruji motioned for us to sit on the floor in his room next to him. He was also sitting on the floor. So he said, "राती प्लेन तो उतर के मन कर रहा सी, क्यों नहीं आए? आ जाना सी." So I just quietly sat down and then he says, "हुन तेरा कैल्शियम लेवल बिल्कुल ठीक है." And then he says, "हुन तेरा हीमोग्लोबिन भी बिल्कुल ठीक है." मैं भूल चुकी थी कि जब मैं गुरुजी को पहले मिली थी, मैंने गुरुजी को ये बोला था, "Guruji, my hemoglobin is showing a drastic decline. It is 8. So he had said, 8 नहीं है, 6. And then I sat down and he just gave me a mucky on my back. He said, "तू फिक्र ना कर, तेरा 12 हो जाओ." And after a month in Delhi, it was 11.6. So I had totally forgotten about that aspect. But he reminded me. So I was getting that feeling that ये इतने साल जो ठीक रही, वो उनकी कृपा से ठीक रही. आज भी जो खड़ी हूँ, उनकी कृपा है तो खड़ी हूँ. A doctor had come that time when Guruji had cured me, and he told the doctor, "मर चली सी, मैं बचाया." And he told me, he said, मैं इंसान की जूनी में हूं और इसकी अपनी मर्यादा होती है. कुछ काम ऐसे हैं जो मैं पास रख के नहीं कर सकता, मैं ताएं तन्नू दूर भेज देता सी, क्योंकि कोई काम उन्होंने बताया कि वो दूर रख के कर सकते थे. He is in the spirit form today. There are no restrictions. So you can just imagine that it is unimaginable how powerful he is. There is nothing which he cannot cure. There is nothing which he cannot set right. There is nothing which cannot be put right on track in your lives. But you have to have that faith. He used to say, मेरे साथ direct connection बनाओ. For direct connection, it was very simple what he had explained. पहले जब तुमने सुना किसी से मेरे बारे में, तो सबसे पहले जो बताता है वो blessings ले जाता है. फिर जिसने सुना, उसका और मेरा direct connection होना चाहिए. There are no go-betweens. There are no intermediate people. There is nothing that you need to reach your Guru. You just have to mentally connect. Whatever you are thinking, he knows. Whatever you are going through, he knows. Whatever you are not doing right, do so. We have to change ourselves and we have to rectify ourselves also. So whatever you know you are not on the track, bring yourself on the track. And like he used to say, "Fir dekho nazare." So he is very much there and he's always doing, he's always helping people, and he had said that he had come on earth to do Kalyan. Whatever he had told us, it was not on the process days. Guruji had gone back to Jalandhar and he was switching his deras from Jalandhar to Panchkula to Chandigarh, and he would call us. My husband, myself and my 2 children would be called, given a certain date and time, and we were to visit Guruji on that particular day. So whatever he had said were on his off days, or when there was no sabha. We were told these different things, and sometimes in sabha as well. Once he had just said, when we were new, "Je zindagi da koda mainu deo, main bilkul siddha haakanga. Hand over the reins of your life to me and I will take you straight towards your salvation." Then he used the English word and he said, "Surrender to me." He said, "Take off your shoes outside and take off your intelligence also. It's of no use of..." Then he also maintained, गुप्त पाठ और गुप्त दान करना चाहिए. साथ बैठे को नहीं पता चले कि तुम पाठ कर रहे हो. So whenever you say a prayer, you say it within, you do not bring it out of your tongue. And he said, पाठ तब असल चलता है जब जबान से नहीं, जब दिमाग से, आप सबकॉन्शियस माइंड से आप पाठ चालू करते हैं. That is your actual. And he was always ready to listen. You only had to connect mentally. You just had to connect mentally. There were times he would say कि मुंह नहीं कटीदा. You don't have to say it from your tongue. काम उल्टा हो जाता है. At times we would see that he is calling people and he is asking them, own accord, कि बताओ किस लिए आए हो, ये क्या काम है. So once I had something at the back of my mind and I said, there are so many people going ahead and why can't I also go and just... So I stood up and I just took one step towards him and he just stopped me with one finger and he said, "Ethic can be learning. There is no need for you to say it out of your tongue over here also." And whatever it was, it rectified. So he knows everything and he's always listening. And there were so many simple things which were also said that इंसान किस काम का, इंसान मर के किसी काम का नहीं है. अगर वो जीते जी भगवान का शुक्राना कर ले तो उसके लिए इतना ही काफी है. जानवर तो मर के भी काम आ जाते हैं, उनके बटुए बन जाते हैं, बेल्ट बन जाती है, जूते बन जाते हैं, खाने के भी काम आ जाते हैं, लेकिन इंसान किसी काम का नहीं है. So he directed towards prayer to the Almighty. He directed towards thanksgiving. आपका डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन होना चाहिए. जो छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं, मुझे उन्होंने शुक्राना करना बहुत सिंपलिस्टिक वे में सिखाया. He said, आंख, नाक, मुंह, कान तेरे आगे लगे हैं, पीछे क्यों नहीं? इस चीज का तू शुक्राना कर. So those were the simple things which Guruji taught. And he had said that मैं माफ ही करन आया हूँ. Like mankind, he had just come for blessing mankind. He's very much there today also. So continuously take your blessings from him, continuously maintain a direct connection with him, and everything that you want to say to him, he knows. आपका अगर दिल है कि आप उनको बताएं तो आप जरूर बताएं, लेकिन आप mentally बताएं. You can connect anytime that you want, anywhere that you want. There was no particular place. He had said, घर का कोई भी कमरा प्रेयर के लिए इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है, प्रेयर कहीं भी कर सकते हो. Then he had also said कि घर के बाहर चाहे तुम मार्केट ही क्यों नहीं जा रहे, गाड़ी ही क्यों नहीं चला रहे, वहां पे भी तुम प्रेयर कर सकते हो. So prayer does not have to be restricted. Prayer does not have to be in any one particular fashion. He had just left it to us, and whenever he give a jap to certain people, for us he had said, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai, Shiv Om Main Haan. So it was what we were told. And everybody who is in his Sharan is so blessed. I have seen in my lifetime that people who did not believe in him, people who did not come to him, he was blessing them too. And how I know, he would say it by word of mouth, that he has done this for certain, this person and this person and that person. Otherwise, how would I come to know? So you're all very, very blessed to have come in association with Guruji. Tell more people about him and take your blessings continuously. Thank you for listening. Jai Guruji.